This conference will now be recorded.
Hello everyone. The topics that we are going to discuss today: factors affecting chemical equilibrium, that is based on Le-Chatelier principle, application of this principle, and under application of Le-Chatelier principle, two manufacturing processes we will discuss. One is manufacture of ammonia by Haber's process, another one is manufacture of sulfuric acid H2SO4 by contact process, and also there will be some related problems. Le-Chatelier principle, what this principle actually states, that we have discussed in detail in the last class. Now there are several factors, that is like pressure, temperature, catalyst, etc. When we change all these factors, what will be the effect on chemical equilibrium based on Le-Chatelier principle, that we will discuss now. So here we have the first factor, which is concentration. So change of concentration, how it affects the equilibrium, that we will see. So when we already reach the equilibrium condition, then we know concentration of reactant and concentration of product, these two fixed. And this concentration of different species in the reaction mixture at equilibrium condition, we call this concentration equilibrium concentration, whether it is reactants or products. And this is fixed. Fine. So here suppose we have this reaction A plus 2B, 1 mole of A reacting with 2 moles of B, and it is producing 1 mole of C and 1 mole of D. Now if we write Kc for this equation, it will be concentration of C multiplied by concentration of D. That is, first we will write the concentration of the species that are present on the product side. Then in the denominator, concentration of the reactants, A to the power 1, because it is having stoichiometric coefficient 1, but for B it will be 2. Okay, so this is the expression for Kc, right? Now under this condition, if we change any of these 4 species are there in total, that is A, B, C and D. Now one of these substances, if we change the concentration, what will happen, that we will see now. The addition or removal of more reactants or products. So it is not just you are decreasing the concentration, that is you are removing some of the substance, you may also add. Suppose in this reaction we are adding more of the product D from outside, that also you can do, or we are adding more of A or B, any species on the reactant side or any species in the product side, that we can do. Or suppose we are decreasing the concentration of any of these 4 species A, B, C, D, whatever we are doing, increase or decrease of concentration, basically we are changing the concentration in whatever way. Then at equilibrium there will be increase or decrease respectively, that is addition or removal of more reactants or products to the reactant system at equilibrium. It causes an increase or decrease respectively in their respective concentration. So in this case what we will consider, suppose we are adding more of C, we are removing the concentration of C, that means in the reaction medium, under that is already it has reached equilibrium, under that condition suppose we are decreasing the concentration of C. So if we are doing so, what will happen, now the value in the numerator, that will decrease, because now the concentration of C, that is decreasing, so numerator will decrease. Now if it is so, what will happen, the value of Kc, that will decrease. Now value of Kc cannot be decreased. So to maintain the value of Kc same as before, now what will happen, to balance this condition, because now the numerator part, this total, that is after multiplication with D, you can also decrease the concentration of D or C. In this case I have considered decreasing concentration of C. So as a result, now the numerator as a whole is decreasing. Now to balance this, that is to keep the value of Kc same, what will happen, more of A and B should be taking part in the reaction. So now though we know the equilibrium is already reached, amount of A and B both are fixed, but as we have forcefully decreased the concentration of C, Now more of A and B will be reacting with each other and it will produce more C, so that ultimately the value of Kc remains same. The only thing that changes equilibrium constant is change of temperature, not any other factors. That means equilibrium constant value Kc, that must be same, and to keep it same, mode of A and B now will react with each other and it will produce mode of C and D. As a result, now this numerator will again increase and this denominator part will decrease. So ultimately, this process will continue until you are not reaching the original value of Kc, right? So in this way, if we bring some forceful change in the concentration by addition or by removal, then the other species, they will adjust the system in such a way so that the original value of Kc remains same. Fine, because the value of Kc itself, that is exact value of Kc, can change only under the condition when you are changing the temperature. But as long as you are maintaining the temperature same and you are bringing changes in the concentration of any of these species, so to keep the value of Kc same, the system will try to nullify the effect by readjusting the equilibrium system. So according to Le-Chatelier principle, under this condition, the position of equilibrium, that is the composition of equilibrium mixture, it will move in such a way as so as to keep that is so as to minimize, that is the nullify the effect of change that we have made from externally and forcefully, right? So this is the example, the example that you are seeing here. It is general example, it may be any species, but one example that is in day-to-day life, that is basically by the biological process, we will try to see the example of this Le-Chatelier principle, that is basically from this expression Hb plus O2 in equilibrium sign HbO2. What it means actually here, Hb is actually hemoglobin, right? And when hemoglobin is combining with oxygen gas, that is, it is making a complex with O2 molecule. Now it will be called HbO2 in short, but actually it is oxyhemoglobin. So blood transportation in our body, how it happens and what is the role of equilibrium, that we will be able to see now. So this is real life example, right? When HbO2 reaches the site of tissues, that is oxyhemoglobin, HbO2, this complex called oxyhemoglobin, when it reaches the site of tissues, and at the site of tissues their partial pressure of O2 is very low. Now as the pressure of O2 is low, to change, that is to keep it same, to balance this condition, now what will happen, the equilibrium will adjust in such a way, now it will be shifting towards that direction where more of O2 will be produced from HbO2. That means it will move in the backward direction, because only in the backward direction HbO2 is decomposed and we are getting liberated oxygen gas, and Hb, original hemoglobin, we are getting. Okay, so when it reaches the tissue of blood, as partial pressure of O2 is low, so HbO2, it will release oxygen and itself will be converted to Hb. So after this process, now the blood when returning back to the lungs, now at lungs, partial pressure of O2 is high because we have taken oxygen from outside, from air. So partial pressure of O2 at lungs, now it is high. Now when it is high, obviously now Hb will combine with O2 and more of HbO2 will be formed. So that O2 is now, that is the concentration of O2 is, or better you say, partial pressure of O2 is decreased. So in this way, transport of oxygen by hemoglobin, that is between blood and lungs, that is from lungs, how O2 is transferred to the site of tissues in different parts of our body, that we can understand from this. So here also you can see this how change in concentration that can affect chemical equilibrium. So this is real life example. So this is the first factor, effect of change of concentration. The second one is effect of change of pressure. So when pressure is changed, how it affects the equilibrium, that we'll see now. The change in pressure has significant effect only on equilibrium systems with gaseous components, because if it is involving any ions in aqueous solution, then obviously the change of pressure factor, it is not so significant. So if you have any reaction where gaseous species they are involved, obviously the effect will be more significant compared to solid or liquid or any aqueous condition ions. So we will take one example of species, there is reaction where gaseous components are in. So nitrogen gas reacting with 3 moles of H2, this is gas, there is equilibrium, and it is producing 2 moles of ammonia. Now remember, it must be balanced, because if it is not balanced, you cannot, that is, all this discussion will be meaningless. So when it is balanced, you have correct number of moles of all the reactants and products, and then only we'll be able to do this discussion. Without proper balanced equation, it is meaningless, because number of moles, how many number of moles are actually involved, that number is important here. When pressure on the system is increased, obviously the volume decrease. That is according to Boyle's law. So here we will consider as if it is behaving ideal. All of them are behaving ideally. Under that condition, from Boyle's law, we know when we increase the pressure, volume is basically decreased, right? So when volume is decreased proportionately, then what will happen? The system will move towards that direction where volume is less. Now, how to know in which direction volume is less? That is easy to understand. Here, 1 mole of N2, 3 moles of H2. That means total number of moles involved, 1 plus 3 equal to 4. And in the right hand side, you have only 2 moles. Now, mole and volume, these two are directly, that is, proportional to each other. So when in any reaction where gaseous species are involved, how to know in which side volume is high? Obviously towards that side where number of moles are high, because that is V and N. N is number of moles, these two are directly proportional. So 4 moles in the left hand side, 2 moles in the right hand side. So when you have increased the pressure, volume is decreased. So the system will be towards that direction. That is, it will prefer that direction where number of moles are less. That means where volume is less. Provided the condition, why we are saying so? Because volume and number of moles, these two are proportional to each other. Okay. So in this case, the reaction will shift more towards ammonia side. That means more of ammonia will be produced, right? So the system responds by shifting the equilibrium in a direction that has fewer number of gaseous molecules, and that direction in this particular example is towards right hand side, towards ammonia side, right? Now similarly, if we are, I'm doing the another possibility also we have to consider. So if I am decreasing the pressure, and how it can be done, you can take the system in a closed container where piston is involved. So when we move the piston, that is, or we are bringing it towards, that is, downward or upward, depending on that, pressure can be increased or decreased. So first case we have considered pressure is increased, but now increased. Now if pressure is decreased, obviously volume will increase. Now volume increase means what? System will prefer that direction where number of moles high. So now ammonia will be decomposed more and more, and it will produce nitrogen and hydrogen. So now the backward direction is favorable. Fine. But if we have any reaction where number of moles both sides same, then what will happen? Now there is no effect on the equilibrium system. So if there is same number of moles on each side of the equation, balanced equation obviously, then a change of pressure makes no difference to the position of equilibrium. One very good example is This example we have already seen. So all these are basically gaseous. So in this case, number of moles involved, right hand side 2 and left hand side also it is 1 plus 1, that is 2. So both side it is same. So there will be no change effect. That is increase of pressure, decrease of pressure. It will not affect chemical equilibrium. Fine. Next effect we will discuss, effect of inert gas addition. Inert gas means it may be helium, it may be argon, that is the noble gases I'm talking about. It may be nitrogen also. Okay, though we do not it is not noble gas, but nitrogen, it is very unreactive type of gas. So that also you can consider. So inert gas means the gas you are adding which will not react with the species that are involved in the reaction. Now, when we are discussing this effect of inert gas addition, basically two point of views will be there. One point of view is when you are adding the inert gas, keeping the volume constant. Another point will be keeping the pressure constant. So first we will see, if you are maintaining constant volume, obviously then pressure will change, because constant volume, constant pressure simultaneously not possible. You are dealing with some gaseous species, and when there is constant volume you are considering, obviously pressure will decrease or increase, right? So under the condition of constant volume, if we are adding some inert gases, then what will happen? Under this condition, obviously the total pressure will increase, because we are adding more gas from outside. But there is no change in the partial pressure or concentration of the reactants and products. And that is the reason there is no effect on the equilibrium. So as long as you are maintaining the constant volume, okay, so what will happen? There will be no effect when you are adding some inert gas, right? Because there is no change in the partial pressure or concentration. That is, partial pressure means when you are dealing with gaseous substance, or concentration also you can talk about, that is Kc. So whether it is Kp or Kc, in both cases, constant volume, if you are maintaining inert gas addition, but whatever gas you are adding, there is no effect on the system. There is no effect on the equilibrium. But if it is constant pressure, now we have to check whether there is that is depending on type of reaction, there will be effect or there may not be any effect. So inert gas is added when under this condition, that is you are now maintaining constant pressure. So obviously volume will increase. So you are adding extra gas, so there will be increase in volume. And when volume is increased, system will prefer that direction where number of moles high. Or another way also you can think about it, when you are adding inert gas, maintaining constant pressure, obviously there is increase in volume. Now when volume is increased, obviously concentration is decreased, because concentration is number of moles per unit volume. So when volume is increased, obviously the denominator increase means as a whole this ratio will decrease. That means concentration is decreased. So to maintain the same concentration, the equilibrium will shift towards that direction where N is also high, because you have increased V. So if you want to keep same this N by V ratio, which is basically concentration, so obviously N value should also increase, then only the ratio will remain just like same. So the system will move towards that direction where number of moles high. So that is the discussion is on the basis of concentration. But if you don't talk about moles or concentration, if you simply consider the fact that you are adding inert gas, you are maintaining constant pressure, so obviously volume is increased, and volume increase means system will prefer that direction where number of moles high, because number of moles volume is proportional to each other. So now we will take examples, two examples basically. You can see here. In the first example, number of moles in the left hand side is 2 and 1, that means total 3, and this side it is 2. That means del Ng value here it is positive. Del Ng means total number of moles product side minus total number of moles in the reactor. Sorry, it is negative. And for the second reaction here it is 1 and it is 1 plus 1. That means now del Ng value is 2 plus 2 minus 1. So it is positive. So in the first case number of moles decreasing. In the second case number of moles increasing. So if you consider the first example, SO2 reacting with O2, it is producing SO3. For this reaction, if under constant pressure condition, you are adding some inert gas, nitrogen, helium, argon like this, then the system will prefer the backward direction, because in the backward direction, number of moles high. So when del Ng is negative, that is towards product side number of moles less, then it will prefer backward direction. But for the second reaction, now the system will move towards forward direction, because forward direction volume is high. Fine. So under constant pressure, we are adding inert gas, volume is increased, and depending on what type of equation we have, del Ng positive or negative, depending on that, we can have different results. But if we have same number of moles both sides, then inert gas addition at constant pressure condition, it will not have any effect on equilibrium. Okay, so example, that is the same example as we have seen, H2G. Here number of moles both sides same. So in this case there will be no effect. So this is for this point. Fine. So three effects we have discussed: concentration, then pressure. Number 3 is inert gas addition. Number 4, very important, effect of change of temperature. Now compared to the three factors that we have already discussed, concentration, pressure and temperature. Now in this case, when we are talking about effect of change of temperature, there is some difference. And what is the difference? So in the previous three cases we have seen, the system is just adjusting. It is moving backward or forward to readjust its equilibrium. But when it is temperature you are changing, now what will happen? The value of Kc or Kp itself will change. Now this effect we have already seen probably in the previous or any older class. That is temperature, effect of temperature on equilibrium, Van der equation. Remember, in Van der equation there is integrated form from which you can understand if it is endothermic reaction, increase in temperature, it will increase the value of Kc or Kp. But if it is exothermic, the reverse is the case. So from that equation also we have already we have the idea how temperature changes the value of Kc or Kp itself. But now we will try to see in the light of Le-Chatelier principle. When the equilibrium is disturbed by a change in concentration, pressure or volume, then the composition of the equilibrium mixture changes to cause a change in the equilibrium concentration. And the purpose here is to maintain the same value of equilibrium constant, right? But when it is temperature, when a change in temperature occurs, the value of equilibrium constant itself is changed. So that is why whenever we mention any reaction, it is important to maintain the temperature. And if temperature is not mentioned properly, then by default we can consider as if it is standard condition, standard temperature. Okay. So here this reaction, hydrogen plus iodine equal to HI. This reaction from the del value, which is minus 10.4 kilojoule per mole for the forward direction. It is important to know for which direction del value is mentioned. So for the forward direction, if nothing is mentioned, you can consider it as if it is for forward. But here it is specifically mentioned. So when you are making HI from H2 and I2, heat will be released. it will be liberated. That is why del H is negative. So the forward reaction, it is basically exothermic reaction. Now here this data given, that is when temperature is 500 Kelvin, the value of Kp is 700. Sorry, when temperature is 500 Kelvin, the value of Kp is 160. But when it is 700, the value is 54. That means when you have increased the temperature from 500 to 700, the value of Kp, it is drastically decreased from 160, it is almost half. It is actually more than that. That is lesser than half, right? So 160, now it is drastically decreased to the value 54. So this is experimental data. So from this, what conclusion you can draw? Just remember Van der Waals equation. When it is exothermic reaction, you are increasing temperature. Obviously, the value of Kp will decrease, right? So here this pictorial representation. If the temperature of the system is increased, the equilibrium will shift in that direction of the endothermic reaction. And if the temperature of the system is decreased, the equilibrium will shift in the direction of exothermic reaction. So it is written in a different way. It is trying to say, suppose any reaction, you are increasing the temperature. And here it is written, equilibrium will shift in the direction where it is endothermic. That means towards that direction where heat is absorbed. Now look at this reaction that is given as example, that is HI production. So in this particular example, the forward direction is basically exothermic, but the backward direction, that is basically endothermic, right? That means when you are producing HI, heat is liberated. So for the opposite reaction, obviously it will be endothermic if you consider the reverse reaction. So in this case, the first, whatever point is mentioned here, you can understand. When you are increasing the temperature from 500 to 700, the system will prefer that direction where this excess temperature, excess energy, that is consumed. So which side it will be consumed? It will be consumed in the backward direction. That is, HI now will decompose to hydrogen and iodine. Similarly, if the temperature of the system is decreased, suppose from 700, now you are moving to 500. So you are decreasing the temperature. So now the system will prefer that direction where heat energy is released, because you have decreased the temperature, now energy is less. So system will prefer that direction where more energy, that is more heat is released. So in this case, it will produce more HI. So when you move from 700 to 500, the Kp value changes from 54 to 160. That means now more of HI will be produced, because in the expression for Kp, if you consider the expression from Kp, it is basically partial pressure of HI2, because there is stoichiometric coefficient, then partial pressure of H2 multiplied by partial pressure of I2. So Kp value is increased, that means more of HI will be produced, right? And the same explanation, Van der Waals equation also, it shows the same effect. Now if we talk about in terms of Le-Chatelier principle, then also same conclusion obviously we will reach. If temperature is increased, the position of equilibrium will move in such a way, which is basically Le-Chatelier principle. If we bring some external disturbance to the system which has already reached equilibrium, so it will try to readjust itself. So in this case, what will happen when you are increasing temperature, it will try to reduce this excess temperature, that is excess energy, it will try to reduce. And how that is possible? It is possible by moving towards that direction where this excess heat is consumed. So in this case, it is basically backward direction. Here it is written for this particular example. Don't think it is the general. Generally, it is written backward. No, it depends on reaction. So for exothermic, you can say when you are adding, you are increasing temperature, this excess temperature, how it can decrease. That is how it can readjust to moving towards that direction where this excess temperature that can be reduced. Okay, so backward reaction will be favored. So this effect, it is different from other effect because here the value of equilibrium constant is changed. Fine. Effect of catalyst. Now catalyst, why we add it? Basically to increase the rate. It has nothing to do with equilibrium. But what is catalyst? Catalyst is basically a substance which can increase or decrease the rate of reaction, but the substance itself doesn't take part in reaction. It will be intact after the reaction is over. Fine. So we add it to increase or decrease the rate, mostly to increase the rate, but sometimes there is negative catalyst we add because sometimes some reactions are so there is the rate of reaction is so high, there may be chance of explosion, or maybe the expected product we are not getting. So in that case, sometime to reduce the rate of reaction, we can also add negative catalyst, right? So it may be both types, positive or negative, but important point is we add catalyst to control the rate, not equilibrium. Fine. So when you are considering reversible reaction at equilibrium, catalyst can affect the rate, both forward reaction and backward reaction, by the same extent. Now equilibrium constant, that is Kc or Kp, it is basically the ratio of for rate of forward reaction, backward reaction, right? So if both the rate are changing, both the rate, backward rate, forward rate, they are affected in a similar way, same extent, because of the addition of catalyst. So obviously these two effects will nullify each other, and ultimately there is no change on Kc value. So catalyst at equilibrium does not affect chemical equilibrium, right? It is just increasing the rate, mostly increasing, it may be decreasing also, but that is basically the role of catalyst you will better understand in the chapter chemical kinetics, where we talk about mainly how fast we can reach equilibrium. So there it is, our focus is not equilibrium of the reaction, but how fast we can reach the equilibrium if it is reversible reaction. But when we are talking about equilibrium, it has nothing to do with catalyst. Fine. Now if we summarize all the points that we have discussed. So concentration, the first point we have discussed, first point under factors affecting chemical equilibrium, then we have seen that addition of reactants. That means you are increasing the concentration of reactant concentration. So obviously forward reaction will be, equilibrium will be shifted. Similarly, if you are removing any products, then also the system will move forward. And if we are adding product, now the system will be coming backward. And if we are removing reactant, then also backward reaction. Then change, if we are changing pressure, if we are increasing pressure, according to Boyle's law, it has opposite effect on volume, so decrease in volume. So system will prefer that direction where lesser number of moles of species involved. That means that side where volume is low, and decrease in pressure, that side preferred where high volume is present. That means higher number of moles. Then temperature, in bracket it is already mentioned, alters the chemical equilibrium. Alters equilibrium constant, which is not in the other case, right? And catalyst, it speeds up the attainment of equilibrium. That means it speeds up how fast you can reach equilibrium. But directly on equilibrium, there is no effect. An addition of inert gas, if it is at constant volume, there is no effect. And if it is constant pressure condition, that also we have discussed. Okay. So these are the factors that affects chemical equilibrium. But only temperature is the factor which can change the value completely. So related to this, we have this problem. Consider the following reaction. Here we have two different oxides of nitrogen. Left hand side it is N2O4, nitrogen tetroxide, and in the right hand side we have nitrogen dioxide. This is balanced equation, right? So as if 2 moles of NO2, if it is dimerizing with each other. That is, if you consider the backward reaction as if these individual two NO2 molecule together, it is making N2O4. But if you consider forward reaction N2O4, that is as if the dimer is broken into two individual NO2. Now for the forward reaction, del H not value given plus 58. So here nothing is mentioned, so you can consider it as if it is for the forward reaction direction. Forward direction means NO2 formation. Now the question is for each of the following cases. So here we have two different cases, 1 and 2. Each of the following two cases, 1 and 2, the direction in which equilibrium shifts, that we have to find. So when temperature is decreased, that is the first case, and the second case is pressure is increased by the addition of inert gas nitrogen, temperature is constant. So the first case, temperature is decreased. Now see, the forward direction, it is endothermic reaction. Now forward direction endothermic means when you are decreasing the temperature, it will move backward direction. So when, if we consider first case, system will prefer backward direction. That means towards N2O4, which is basically reactant, right? And the second case is pressure is increased. Now pressure you are changing, that means directly it is not mentioned that it is volume constant volume condition, but as it is already written pressure increase, so obviously volume is it is at constant volume condition. Okay, now under constant volume, I am writing here under it is true, it is not directly mentioned, but as it is increasing temperature by addition of inert gas, so obviously you have to consider as if it is constant volume case, because inert gas addition may be two types, under constant volume or under constant pressure. But here it is mentioned pressure is increased, that means you have to consider that it is under constant volume. Under this condition, when you are increasing the pressure by addition of nitrogen gas, so this will disturb the system. How it will disturb? It will disturb the system by changing the volume. But volume is constant, right? That we have maintained. So when it is constant volume, whether you add inert gas, any type of inert gas, there is actually no effect. Effect of inert gas is possible only when it is under constant pressure condition. But it is not constant pressure condition because it is already written pressure is increased. That means it is constant volume condition, and constant volume is no change. So for the second case towards product, these two not right, no change, no change. So any of these 3 and 4 correct. But we have already seen towards reactant, that means 3 should be correct answer. Fine. Next question. Here we have the reaction, gas phase reaction, 2 nitrogen dioxide molecule N2O4. It is, see, it is basically the reverse reaction. In the previous case, the reaction that you have seen, now it is the reverse reaction. So that is why it is also written here, it is exothermic reaction. Equilibrium sign is not there, but it is already mentioned, it is equilibrium mixture. So gas phase reaction, 2NO2 equilibrium N2O4, it is already mentioned exothermic. The decomposition of N2O4, is basically backward direction reaction, isn't it? Because forward direction reaction is basically formation of nitrogen tetroxide. So backward reaction is basically decomposition of N2O4. Okay, so it is asking decomposition of N2O4 in equilibrium mixture of these two, because when it is equilibrium condition, obviously both of them will be present. It is not that you will get fully all the products you will get. No, it is not that. As it is equilibrium mixture, there will be both the mixture of NO2 as well as N2O4. So it is asking the decomposition of N2O4, that is the backward reaction, in equilibrium mixture of these two substances can be increased by which of these four? A, B, C, D. So it is basically asking in simple words. It is asking in which case A, B, C, D backward reaction will be favored. That is a simple way you can state this problem. Okay. So the first, it is saying that lowering of temperature. Now the formation of N2O4 is exothermic. That means backward reaction is endothermic. And endothermic reaction always means more heat will be required. It will absorb heat. But you are lowering temperature. You are not increasing. So obviously backward reaction will not be favored. In the problem, it is asking decomposition of N2O4 will be increased. That means backward reaction should be favored. But when you are lowering the temperature, it will not be favored because it is endothermic. So it is not correct. Then increasing pressure. So when we increase pressure, volume is basically decreased. So when volume is decreased, that means we have to consider that direction by number of moles less. So when pressure is increased, volume is decreased. So we will consider that direction where number of moles less. So here number of moles 2, but number of moles is 1 in the forward direction. So forward direction will be favored for the option B condition. But that is not we want. We want the backward reaction. We want decomposition of N2O4, not formation of N2O4. So this is also not correct. Then addition of inert gas under constant volume. Now when it is under constant volume case, you are adding inert gas, there is basically no change. And the last one is saying that when it is constant pressure condition and you are adding inert gas, so volume will, number of moles high, so that direction will be favored where volume high. Now in which direction number of moles or volume is high? It is basically the backward direction. That means addition of inert gas at constant pressure condition, it will favor this. So here it is also described. On adding the inert gas at constant pressure, volume increases, concentration will decrease. Hence, equilibrium will shift towards that direction in which there is increase in number of moles, and therefore in this case reaction will move towards backward direction which will lead to decomposition of dinitrogen tetroxide. So decomposition of dinitrogen tetroxide is basically backward reaction. So last option is the correct option. Application of Le-Chatelier principle. So as we have said when in the last class, probably when we have started Le-Chatelier principle, that it is important as for especially in industrial reactions where we manufacture any chemical in large scale. So their profit is important. So we have to minimize the expense as much as possible, and yield of the product should be high as much as possible. So we have to adjust the conditions, concentration, temperature, then pressure in such a way so that we can maximize the yield of this industrial product. So two products we will discuss. One is ammonia by Haber's process, and another one is H2O. So Le-Chatelier principle can help us to increase the profits and yields of many industrial reversible reactions by controlling the effect of different conditions. That is the factor that affects equilibrium, right? So manufacture of ammonia in Haber's process. So in Haber's process, how we manufacture ammonia? So this example we have already seen. So in this case, 1 mole nitrogen reacts with 3 moles of hydrogen and it produces 2 moles of ammonia. Here delage value minus 92.2, which is basically for the formation of ammonia, that is forward direction. Now we have this reaction and our purpose is to maximize the yield of ammonia. That means we have to control the conditions in such a way so that amount of ammonia is high when equilibrium is reached compared to N2 and H2. So these are the conditions we have to maintain. In Haber's process, ammonia is synthesized by combining these two in 1:3 ratios, 1 and 3, in presence of catalyst, which is iron catalyst. And another substance that is molybdenum promoter, because promoter is also a substance which helps the catalyst, right? Details we don't need here. Just important point is we use which catalyst, then what is the temperature. So 773 Kelvin, which is around in terms of degree centigrade is around 500, right? And pressure is maintained around 200. So how we have selected these conditions? That basically based on Le-Chatelier principle. This principle helps in selecting these conditions so that we can maximize the yield of ammonia. So here we have this diagram: nitrogen from air, hydrogen from natural gas, 1:3 ratio by volume, or you can say mole ratio 1:3, iron catalyst 200 atmosphere pressure, and this is the temperature range maintained. 773, it is around 500. So in different textbooks, to some extent difference you can see, but it is more or less around 450. And there is gaseous produced. Now these are cooled, and ammonia after cooling turns to liquid. In this way we can get ammonia, and whatever unreacted gases are left, unreacted N2 and H2, it can be recycled for the next batch. Fine. Now how we have chosen these conditions, that is this particular temperature, particular pressure. So that will be discussed on the basis of Le-Chatelier principle. So manufacture of ammonia in Haber's process, effect of pressure. In the forward direction, number of moles of gaseous component is decreasing. Remember the balanced equation. So in the forward direction, we have 2 moles. Here we have total 4 moles. So forward direction, number of moles of gaseous component, not just any component, gaseous component decreasing. So del Ng value 2 minus 4, it is negative. Hence, synthesis of ammonia will be favored by increasing the pressure of the system. Because when you are increasing pressure, according to Boyle's law, volume is decreased. So the system will prefer that direction where volume is low. So that is why industrially this pressure is maintained, right? Now, basically, if you can ask that how we have selected this pressure, that is actually done by trial and error. Different pressures are taken and it is observed in which case we are getting maximum yield. So in this way, trial and error ways, we can select this pressure, which pressure range will actually work for the maximum yield of ammonia. Then what is the effect of temperature? Now in the previous slide you have seen the forward direction reaction is, look at this value, minus 92.2 kilojoule per mole. So it is exothermic. So when it is exothermic, temperature should not be very high. Since forward direction reaction is exothermic, according to Le-Chatelier principle, synthesis of ammonia is favored at low temperature. But low temperature, what is the value of temperature that we should consider low? Because just mere saying low, it doesn't make sense, right? So exact value we have to know. If you lower the temperature, that is if it is very low, then we also have to take care of another factor, which is basically kinetic factor. Because for activation energy, which is basically related to chemical kinetics, minimum activation energy must be supplied. Otherwise, how the reaction will take place? So activation energy means, if we consider energy profile diagram, so this is product, this is reactant. So in this case, this is transition state. So this is the temperature difference. Transition state and reactant are, this is product. So this amount of energy must be supplied, which is activation energy. So if it is true that exothermic reaction, we should keep the temperature low, but it should not be too low, because it will be very slow. The reaction will be very slow if it is very low temperature. So that is why, keeping both the factors in mind, the temperature is maintained at this value. If you simply look at the value, that is 723, 823, which is around 450, 500, right? It seems as a very high temperature, but high temperature, low temperature, all these things are basically relative. So it is not you just taking care of the fact that it is exothermic, it should be low, but also kinetic barrier we have to overcome. So keeping both the conditions in mind, we have to maintain this temperature. Then catalyst. So it is true that catalyst has no effect on the equilibrium, but how fast we can reach the equilibrium, that factor is important when we are talking, because we are talking about manufacturing process. So here the cost for the production of ammonia, that should be as low as possible. Now we will try to increase the speed of the reaction, that is, if it reaches the equilibrium condition fast, that is better. So increase the speed of the reaction. Finely powdered or porous iron is used as catalyst with a small amount of molybdenum or potassium oxide K2O and aluminium oxide as promoter. But remember at least the catalyst name, which is iron. So catalyst will be required to speed up the reaction, though it has no direct effect on equilibrium, but speed of the reaction is also important. And removal of ammonia. See, here ammonia concentration will increase as time is progress. So if you, as ammonia is produced, then you are removing it somehow. Now to maintain the equilibrium, the equilibrium will be shifting towards right hand side. That means the reaction will produce more and more ammonia. So removal of ammonia is very important. Remember the first point we have discussed under factors affecting equilibrium. The first point, effect of change of concentration. So in this case, we are basically decreasing the concentration of ammonia so that more and more ammonia is produced. So forward reaction we can favor by removing ammonia from the system from time to time by liquefying it, because when it is produced, it is in gaseous condition. But if by cooling we are changing it to liquid, obviously we'll be able to remove it and the system will shift towards right hand side direction. Okay, so in this way we can maximize the yield of ammonia. Today we will not start it because it is another manufacturing process that is also under application of Le-Chatelier principle, and this is manufacture of sulfuric acid by contact process. So just the way you have seen different controlling different conditions, pressure, temperature, concentration change, we are trying to maximize the yield of ammonia. In a similar way, we will also see how we can maximize the amount of H2SO4 in the contact process. Okay, so today we are at the end of the session. Thank you for listening.